Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of June 18th, 2025. Overall, a pretty solid week of DC books.
Yes, it
Nothing
was.
really blew me away, but I didn't think anything was tough either. Like when I came down to like the last few of my rankings, they were almost interchangeable. But yeah, the gap between like my favorite book. I mean, maybe my favorite book was this week was kind of easy to pick, maybe for reasons, but like 2 through 11 or whatever it was, 2 through 12, yeah, almost interchangeable. So, yeah. Anyway, what did you think of the week
I
overall, Rocky?
I think that overall, and I hope I explained this right. Overall, these were this was one of the strongest weeks for me in terms of everything was for sure. If I was to rank all the comics on a ranking of from 0 out of 10, all of them in my mind were at least, well, except for one, were pretty much a 7.5, 7.5 to 8 ranking for me. I thought they were generally pretty damn good, most all of them. Uh, at the same time, it was easy for me to pick my top five, but at the same time, I think overall, the quality was consistently high. And there's only one where I can, I mean, we're always constructively critical. That's not going to change, but I was impressed. So overall, I think this is one of the stronger weeks, although the best comic wasn't as good as maybe the best comic in the last few weeks, for example. But I think there's a strong moderate quality here that I really like. I'm really, like I said, I just really like the feel that DC has given me because, we're so accustomed in the past of just you and I having, searching for a new way to say that it's an underwhelming week. But with DC, we've been, this has been a pretty damn good year so far.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about like, man, San Diego Comic Con is going to be here before we know it. It's like in 5 weeks. And with changes to the PR team over there and what have you, like I don't know what to expect. Um, Like, will
Yeah.
people reach out for interviews? I have no idea what it's going to be like this year. So, but that's almost par for the course with San Diego. Every year is different from every other. But yeah, big news is going to be coming out, um, as it always is for San Diego Comic Con or in the weeks leading up to it. And kind of on that note, I meant to mention this last week. Not to praise DC too much, but I meant to mention this last week because the news came out. But before we recorded last week, and then I forgot. Um, But the news has come out that the regular issues of Batman are going to be 2 months late. Like the next issue of Batman, we're not getting an issue of Batman this month, and we're not getting one next month either. So next issue of Batman's not till August, I guess.
You
Um,
mean, oh, really? I thought that was just for
yeah,
Hush, or is that for all of them?
yeah. That's what I'm saying for
Oh,
Hush
yeah, for
for
Hush.
Hush
Yeah, I mean,
for Hush too. Yeah, with Jim Lee art, which
yeah.
is not a big surprise. Jim, we know
No,
Jim is
no.
not that fast anymore. But here's the thing that bothers me about it. First of all, like Chip Zdarsky kind of got the runaround. Like, okay, we're gonna do it now, so you need to finish up your. And if you recall, Chip was like, and to DC's credit, at least they said, okay, well, how much time do you need to finish what you're the story that you're telling, Chip? And he told them. And so, if you recall, toward the end of last year, there were weeks where, or months rather, where Batman was supposed to double ship, supposed to be 2 issues a month, and then they walked it back and they said, no, 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 never mind. Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee need more time. So, um, yeah, even though it was originally solicited as 2 per month, it ended up being 1 per month, and Chip got to, finish the story the way he wanted to. But all in service of this Hush 2 story, which frankly we have been underwhelmed by and hasn't been very good. I mean, the art's been okay. I mean, it's Jim Lee. You would expect it to be strong, and it has been, but maybe not as strong as Jim in his prime. Which again, we've seen that with things like Superman Unchained. Um, but all in service to, hey, Batman Hush the first time came out in the regular Batman series, so we have to have it in the regular Batman series. It can't be in its own standalone thing. But then they signed Matt Fraction to do Batman, and they say, okay, it's starting on this date. Well, Hush 2 is not going to be done in time, so we'll do the first 6 issues of Hush 2 in the regular series, and then it'll be a 6 issue Hush 2 miniseries to finish it up. So So already you didn't have it in the regular title, so you kicked Chip off for no reason. Stupid. And
Yeah,
again, like, do it to with plenty of time to have this ship on time, and you got to be sure there's a Batman. The Batman book, not Detective Comics, but Batman is the flagship title for DC Comics these days, and now you're going 2 months without it. Like, just a complete debacle. Just again, I'm not surprised by this news at all, but
yeah,
I mean, you would think that they would learn their lesson at some point and say, we're not even going to solicit Hush 2 until it's all drawn, until it's all done.
yeah.
All 12 issues. There was no reason that it needed to be announced when it was announced. No reason to inconvenience Chip, and he was a good sport about it. But it just it annoys me more than
Yeah.
anything. It's a first world problem, 100%. But like, when are you going to learn, DC? When are you going to learn? And what's DC going to do? It's not like they're going to fire Jim Lee for not hitting deadlines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, no one's talking about it anyway, really.
yeah, because it's not any
We
good.
made the comment before. It's the least interesting Batman title out there, and Batman is firing on all cylinders in all the various titles that he's in. And Batman Hush is the most underwhelming out of all of them. And now it gets delayed. I don't think anybody cares. Like, I don't care,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
whatever.
It will hurt sales in the short term. But I guess DC. I guess they kind of take the long view, right? Because Batman Hush is one of those evergreen titles in collections. It will always
Yeah.
be in print or
Oh,
whatever. And I guess
sure.
they're thinking the same thing with Hush 2. It'll have legs or whatever. But yeah, it's just, it hasn't been very good. I was a little bit excited for it, despite my misgivings about the way they handled it. I didn't agree with any of it. Any of the decisions they made were baffling to me. But I was at least looking forward to the story.
Hmm.
Well, at least it'll be interesting. But it hasn't. It's been terrible. And we've had 3 issues so far, and pretty much nothing's happened. So anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the books that we're going to talk about in detail this week. Let me get my rankings in front of me so I can make sure to get that right. So kicking it off with Nightwing number 127 from writer Dan Waters, Dexter Soy on art, Veronica Gandini on colors, Wes Abbott handling the letters. Um, this didn't make my top 5. It came in at number 7 for me. Now, overall, I've really enjoyed the Dan Waters era of Nightwing so far, and the Dexter Soy art has been strong. But this particular issue felt a little bit more like setup, being narrated by um, the fifth dimensional Night Mite, who's apparently showed up here as some giant monster.
Yeah.
So yeah, this just wasn't quite as strong for me as Dan's run has been so far, but still overall this title is very, very good. So anything to add,
Yeah.
Rocky?
Yeah, well, I actually quite enjoyed it. It's funny, I ranked it at number 7 as well, but that's pretty damn high. We had 12 issues this week, and I really liked right away. I guessed that it was the fifth dimension. It was Nightlight.
Yeah.
I guessed that from the narration, so I guessed right. And I usually don't always guess right, but I did. Mayor Grayson Lynn. I like the fact that she feels remorseful, having supported Spheric Solutions in armoring up the local law enforcement, and just great action, great art by Dexter Soy. It does involve the fifth dimension. It involves using a weapon against this sort of this creature that has come from the fifth dimension, and of course we got Nightlight as well. This is actually pretty damn good. Dan Waters has done a good job of taking that Fimps, like a Mixias Patelic sort of character, and actually incorporating him in this story in a very serious manner. And we also got Mira Grayson Lynn. That was she ends up being attacked and recovering in the hospital. And we've got the continuing machinations of Spheric Solutions. And overall, it's just really good, great character moments between Dick Grayson and Oracle. Great stuff. And yeah, so don't let the ranking fool you. This was still a pretty damn good comic, and Dan Waters continues to impress.
Yeah, very impressed with what he's done on Nightwing so far. All right, up next we have The New Gods number 7 from writer Rom V. Evan Cagle handles the art. Actually, all the art in the entire issue. There's no flashback. Well, actually, I take that back. I guess it's a little bit of a flashback. I mean, it's narrated by Metron for the first three issues, and he gives a little bit of a, it's not a flashback the way we've had flashbacks previously, but again, it's sort of a recap, I guess you would say. But anyway, those first three pages are by Travis Moore, and then Francesco Segala on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. And again, this has been a book that overall has been pretty strong for me. However, for the first time in a long time, it doesn't make my top five, and this may be the first time ever that it didn't make my top five. It comes in just below at number 6, but I know it came in the top five for you. So give us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's funny. Upon reflection, I read it a few times, and I actually originally ranked this at number 5 for me, but then I increased it. It's actually now in my top 3. I just the more I read it, the more it sort of resonated with me. I do think this is one of the better, more grounded issues of New Gods since it began. It's issue 7. It took a while to get here, but I like the fact that we're with the Justice League now. The New Gods are on Earth. New Genesis was obliterated. The Nectari are on their way to basically destroy it. The Golden Child that's being protected by Mr. Miracle and Big Berta and is on the planet. Orion now is basically he stopped trying to kill the Golden Child, so to speak, or the Chosen One, and it's clear it's clear to the reader now that Metron has been sort of laying the pieces in play. We thought maybe at first, Metron was working with Maxwell Lord, and he kind of was, but Metron intentionally set things up so that the Justice League would be involved. He intentionally set things up. He had a good idea what was going to happen because he sits in the Mobius chair and he has all knowledge, and so he's presumably, at least my reading of it is that Metron is aware and he's at least planning to give the best chances to the side of good against the upcoming forces of the Nectari that are moving very quickly toward Earth. And there's some great character moments here between Superman and Orion. And in particular, the scene that I thought resonated with me that actually caused me to actually put it in my top 5, because Ram V, when he pulls away from the esoteric and he focuses on it, he's really good and masterful at character moments when he wants to be. And there's a moment where Orion finds out that Solaris, his brother, was killed. That light ray gave his life, and the way to see the sorrow of Orion as he screams, and as he screams in sorrow, his face is such that you could see. You could see in his face here that he looks like Darkseid when he screams in sorrow at the loss of his brother, and it's funny, because when you think of Orion is someone that can literally go into a berserker rage, and he often can look, since in various iterations, Orion is destined to become to replace Darkseid, depending on which mythology you want to follow. And he actually looks like Darkseid when he's really, really angry and he goes berserker rage. But he also looks that way in sorrow. And I thought that was I'm sure that was intentional on the part of the artist here. I thought it was very well done, and I thought it was very powerful. In particular, when moments after that, the child that Orion was originally going to kill comes and extends his hand and asks if he's okay, as a way of calming him down. And I thought it was just very touching, and it sort of like brought the series back to me because it got so esoteric there for a while and mythological, but this issue reminded me that this is a very human story and what it is we're all fighting for. So I thought it was very powerful, and yeah, it was a high recommend for me this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. It was tough to leave it out of my top 5. Yeah, the character work for the New Gods, super interesting. Seraphim showing up at the end. Whose side is he on? I mean, he was a member of the Forever People, so what exactly going on with him? Just super interesting. And Metron, always somebody who I think handled correctly as a character, is very interesting. I think he could, if anybody could, of any of the New Gods could carry their own title, it would be Metron. He has his own machinations here. He's been manipulating and puppeteering everybody the entire time. Engineered the birth of this chosen one and what have you. And I thought the characterization of Jon Stewart as well was very good. Him basically telling Agent Chase of the DEO, what does he say? Something about um,
He's a
all life is sacred and worth protecting. We all know what
yeah.
the right thing to do is. Yeah, I'm crossing some lines, whatever. I know you have a rule book, um, but you don't need a rule book to tell you when something's right. So great characterization for John Stewart. Really powerful moment there. So, and yeah, the art from Evan Cagle and Travis Moore is fantastic as well. So, all right. Up next, we have Titans number 24 from John Layman. Pete Woods handles the line and color work. Wes Abbott on the letters. And this one comes in the top five for both of us. Again, really enjoying the characterization. Really enjoying what John Layman has done with Venetia. Building on what came before, and having Tara show up here. That's probably why it nudged out New Gods for me and ended up in the top five. I mean, I think this actually came in at number 4 for me. But that characterization of the Titans and their reaction to Tara working with this new secret society of supervillains was very powerful. It was very emotional. And it goes to show that the ability, and it's interesting. They even say here, Deathstroke's like Tara's superpower is actually manipulation, right? Like being able to manipulate people and their feelings and what have you, as opposed to her actual superpower is like her brother, Brian Markov, that she can manipulate rocks and earth and that sort of thing. But really, her real power is that she can get people to fall in love with her, or believe her, follow her cause, or what have you. I thought that was a pretty apt characterization for Tara. It does apply to how she's been as a character over the years. Pete Wood art continues to be really great for the most part. There was only one panel where the art did pull me out of the story a little bit. There's a panel pretty early on one of the pages with Donna Troy, and she's like making a point, and her finger is like way too long. It really, yeah, that, like I
Yeah.
couldn't stop staring at it. I was like counting the knuckles and whatever. And I
Yeah.
get that it's supposed to be like in your face, and it's what's called in artist terms foreshortening or whatever. But I think even it's just a little bit too long, like it, or a lot of it too long. It definitely pulled me out of the story. I could not stop looking at it. And I was like, that does
Yeah.
not look right. But it's a nitpick, and overall, this is really strong. And this is kind of what I expect from a Titans book, when it should follow in kind of the legacy, I guess we'll say, of the Wolfman and Perez run. Right? It should be a little bit melodramatic. It should be a little soap operatic in its drama and in its characterization and character interactions, but with great superhero action, and that's what we get here. So,
Yeah.
um, and an interesting choice by John Layman. That at times we've criticized this story technique, but I think it works well here. Where Bendis used to do this all the time, and we'd call him out on it, where we would be told what the action was instead of shown. And so, the end of last issue, the way last issue ended was Donna Troy saying, "Yeah, we're going to go take the fight to Deathstroke and his new secret society of supervillains." And this issue doesn't start off with them fight. This issue starts off they're back in their headquarters, and they've already had the fight and gotten their butts kicked. So like skipped over, but there's a bit of a flashback. We do get to see some of the action, but when that's not done well, when you use that storytelling technique and it's not done well, at like with Bendis many times in Justice League, where we're just told about the action instead of seeing it, it feels like a bit of a cheat. Um, but in this one, because of the strength of the character work, Layman using that storytelling or plot device, I think it worked well. So, yeah, this continues to be one of my favorite titles at DC. This Titans, just like high quality, and as much as I'm a big fan of Tom Taylor's work normally, this is the contrast of this with the previous run is pretty stark.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that just not enough happened during Tom Taylor's tenure on the title. So
Yeah.
anyway, what did you think overall, Rocky?
Well, I ranked this. This was in my top five. It was, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I was going to point out what John Layman did in the way he structured this story, and at first it sort of bothered me a bit. It was like they're finally going to battle and find out that Terra is on the other side, is on the side of the syndicate with Deathstroke. But all of a sudden, we find out right at the beginning of the story that they already had the fight and they were kind of defeated. Now we all know that they're fine, they're doing well, and I mean, where's the build up? And I think he had to do that because of the story surrounding Venadia, and I think that's the misdirection there. Venadia might is set up to maybe potentially betray the team, and the build up of her, and she wants to impress the Titans and become a member, but the Titans don't quite trust Venadia, and I think in many ways, since those of us reading this, at least for me, and I'm sure yourself too, we're thinking of the Judas Contract. We're thinking, well, and John Layman too. He wants to tell a story that involves Terra and Deathstroke and the Syndicate battling the Titans, but you don't want to have a repeat of the Judas Contract. You want to make this story your own, and he does a good job with that. And the way he structured the story, I agree with you. It actually does work. It does work. So despite my initial disappointment in the opening pages, I thought, oh, come on, really? It actually worked well, in particular because the art's fantastic. We got to see key fight sequences anyway. We got to see the first, the meeting again between Terra and Changeling, which we wanted to see. So the flashbacks were impressive enough and drawn spectacularly enough that I enjoyed it anyway. And I'm really curious. I think it's maybe predictable what's going to happen. The way this ended on a cliffhanger with Venadia supposedly joining the Syndicate, I think that there's something going on there. So it might be a little bit tropey, a little bit predictable. But you know what? There's something about the way that John Layman structures and paces this story. It's fast. It's fast paced. There's great action. There's great character moments, in particular between Donna Troy and Arsenal, which I'm an Arsenal Donna Troy shipper. So bring that on. I want to get Cheshire in there and get a love triangle going. I mean, let's create some drama here, people. But yeah, good stuff. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, there's some awesome Terra-centric covers for this issue as well. Like they're both open order covers. The B cover by Omar, yeah, the yellow one that just looks great. Then there's another one with Deathstroke and Terra side by side by Tyler Kirkham, which is fantastic. And kind of on that note of covers, I forgot to mention when we were talking about New Gods, there's a Dan Mora New Gods cover with kind of the Trinity in the foreground and High Father in the background. That's really fantastic as well. And there's a Jorge Fornes Nightwing cover also that's really fantastic. So anyway, moving on. Up next we have Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, #1 from writer Ryan North, Mike Norton on art, Ian Herring on colors, Lucas Catoni on letters. So first of all, this makes my top 3. I thought it was fantastic for a couple of reasons that I'll talk about, but I also acknowledge that the recent loss of one of my own dogs may have colored my outlook for reading this.
Yeah.
It had a little bit of extra meaning for me, I guess, when I read it. But I think even without that, I think this still would have made my top 5. Maybe it doesn't make my top 3, but I think it still makes my top 5 because I loved what Ryan North did here, and it took me a little bit to catch on. So as you're reading the story, I thought it was a fantastic job from the creative team. I'm sure it was Ryan North's idea, but Lucas Catoni, the letterer, does a fantastic job of it. Whenever the human characters, Kryptonian characters, whatever, Jor-El and Laura basically, and then other people that Laura interacts with later, when they're talking and they're not specifically talking to Krypto, it's in a lighter gray. The type is in a lighter gray. And whenever there's a word that Krypto would key on, like his name, or when they're talking to him specifically, it's in like the usual dark font that you typically see in a comic, which goes to show that that's when that Krypto's paying attention. He knows that they're talking to him or what have you. And I just thought that was such a fantastic way to do it. And then I also thought that early on, and there's not a lot new here when it comes to like the destruction of Krypton and what have you, with Jorah and L'Orel talking and intimating that the Science Council is not listening to them, and that they're testing a prototype rocket. They'll hopefully be able to save hundreds, but there's millions on Krypton. They lament that they won't be able to save everybody, but some is better than none, and they're doing the testing or what have you, and then they put Krypto in the rocket to launch off and test, and it's supposed to go up there into orbit and then come back down, but a wormhole opens and Krypto's transported through space and time. He ends up crash landing outside of Metropolis, heads into the city, and of all people, the human that he meets that is the first one to kind of show him some affection and not kick him or try to hit him with the car or whatever is Lex Luthor of all people. So that's pretty interesting. It's definitely much expanded on the origin of Krypto. But the other thing that really got me was just the small character moments. I mean, and this is a dog, right? Like we're not privy at any point to Krypto's thoughts. So it's Ryan North and Mike Norton, who has a comic called Battle Pug. So he's used to drawing dogs, but Krypto obviously not a pug. Um, but what an incredible job to show emotion in the face when of a dog. Where, it's not a human that we're used to, the way to draw them or whatever. But great characterization. Oftentimes we know what Krypto is feeling just by the body language and what have you. But great moments like the scene early on where Krypto's snuggling the little baby Kal-El is just awesome. And anybody who's had a dog at the time that they've had a young child, a baby, will know that is, it's a really touching moment. I remember when we brought our daughter home from the hospital, and our dog that recently passed, Tilk, like, checking her out and sniffing her and snuggling her and stuff, and it was really fun. It was really cool, and so being able to see that moment, I thought was awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are really going to love this comic. A lot of people love dogs. Obviously, a lot of people anticipating seeing Krypto in the upcoming Superman movie out on July 11th. And yeah, expanding on the origin of Krypto, um, it's about time. I would say it's about time because I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to tell more of kind of the backstory and bring it up to date, modernize it, and what have you. So yeah, I thought this was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a great Krypto story. It really is, and like you said, it's never really been done before, to my knowledge. I don't ever recollect so much focus being played on Krypto's origins, literally from Krypto's, well, many ways from Krypto's perspective, and then of course even at the end there, with Lex Luthor being thrown into the mix, being the first human that Krypto really feels any kind of affection toward, is kind of it's interesting, and it actually kind of works, and so it's different. I do note with a little bit of tongue in cheek, little sarcasm that Jor-El and Laura love their dog so much, love Krypto so much, they're gonna risk his life by in the experimental ship before they put their son in. So clearly, there's a hierarchy of love in the L family. I mean, it's just like, I mean, he was still put in an experimental rocket ship. I mean, when they knew full well something could go wrong, and something did in fact go wrong. So I found that interesting. The other little tidbit of detail that I really liked was I liked the fact that on Krypto it is established at one point there's a scene where Laura is walking Krypto, is walking the dog, and she's speaking with another Kryptonian. And while their dialogue is talking about, the explosions of Krypton and we're focusing on that, the dialogue that got me was where uh, it's established that the other lady walking her dog was walking a purebred something, and Laura made it clear that Krypto is actually, he's many he they don't she doesn't know what she is, so he's many different types of breeds on Krypton. And so I like the fact that Krypto is sort of he's not a purebred, he's a mixture of different, all kinds of different, maybe dog species on Krypton, and I think that's appropriate and fitting. And so Krypto himself is a little bit of a wild card, sort of rogue orphan of all. He's the last remaining orphan of all the various genetic profiles of dogs on Krypton. Might sound like I'm reading too much into that, but I actually thought that was kind of cool and so completely appropriate. It sort of reminded me of like the Codex on Man of Steel, that was in Kenneth Kal-El. Krypto represents all dogs on Krypton, and being the sole survivor. So I thought that was pretty cool. And it just goes to show you dogs really are the same on Krypton as they are on Earth, which is appropriate. And coming up to this Superman movie, which the latest Superman preview coming out. Oh man, it looks awesome! Can't wait for the movie. And this gets me excited for seeing Krypto in the movie. And so and I like the fact that they're changing the look of Krypto in the comics here to reflect more to look a little bit more like the Krypto in the movie. I think that was a good move on the part of DC.
Yeah, he's a little smaller in the movie than we've seen him. He's a mutt, and not purebred in the movie as well. And there is a movie homage cover from Dan Morrow, which is really fantastic. He's always been a little bit bigger in the comics, but yeah, he's a little bit smaller in the movies, which I'm fine with. It's just fantastic. I can't wait to see him on the big screen myself. So, all right, up next, this doesn't make either of our top five. Batman, Superman, World's Finest, number 40 from writer Mark Waid. Adrian Gutierrez on art, Matt Herms on colors, Steve Wands on letters. A little bit of a commentary on social media and influencers and how they have the ability to be toxic. It's like sort of the opposite of great power comes great responsibility. It's sort of like with great irresponsibility comes great destruction, I guess you could say. So I thought it was an okay story. Just not strong enough to make the top five this week. But one thing that I don't know why I never really noticed this before, but I found myself at one point just kind of staring at the title page of this. And I always had noticed like the little small line in the E was the symbol, the shape of the crest on Superman's chest. But I never noticed that the little middle part of the W on World's Finest, or World's was Batman's head.
That's
I
right.
never
Yeah.
noticed that. I'd never noticed that before. But yeah, shout out to whoever designed this logo because they did a fantastic job. I think logo design is one of the things that gets we like a good logo, especially trade dress on the front of the comic can be eye catching and clue you into kind of the tone of the story. I don't think those designers get enough credit for designing because bad logos. Oh man, if you want a good chuckle, just go on Instagram and look up bad logos. There's this woman that has people send in bad logos for businesses or whatever, and some of them are just cringe. So anyway, this didn't make your top five either, Rocky. But any quick thoughts on it?
Well, I thought it was okay. It's once again Mark Waid telling stories in the past, trying to set up future stories. I'm pretty sure, and in this case, it's a podcast starring Jim Gordon, Perry White, and there's really great character moments between Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent, and they're taking pot shots at each other, and Bruce Wayne pretending to be attracted to Lois Lane. Well, I'm sure he is attracted to Lois Lane, but he's getting under Clark's skin a little bit, and they're having fun with each other. What I like about Mark Waid is that Mark Waid is good at creating some tension between these characters, but also emphasizing the fact that these guys are friends. And they're best friends, and you can tell, and it works. And then, of course, the way they have to react to extraordinary events. The podcaster being somebody that can sort of channel and create whatever he thinks of, and all to increase his ratings and his subscriber base. And it's actually something that's very real and sort of present, and something that you could imagine happening in our world in the present day if superheroes existed. And again, it works really well. And I thought the art was really good too. Very action packed. So, I mean, all around, just a really good full package. Mark Waid continues to show our world's finest. We're 40 issues in, and there's very few DC titles that are have been sustained hits for 40 issues. I mean, I think of World's Finest, and I think maybe a Poison Ivy, and only a handful of others. So this is definitely a continued success for Mark Waid, and the art as well. Gutierrez does a pretty good job. Matt Herms on colors.
Yeah, there's if you're a fan, be aware there's a Stephen Colbert cover. So Stephen Colbert's first cover appearance. He doesn't appear in the book, obviously, but obviously a nod to the fact that they're on this talk show. So yeah, look for that if you're so inclined. All right, up next we have Zatanna, issue number 5. Jamal Campbell, writer and artist. Then we have letters by Ariana Mayer. This has been a strong title. The art has been second to none. Jamal Campbell's an extremely talented artist, and I've been impressed with the story he's been telling. This feels like a little bit of a setup issue, though. in terms of bringing us to the conclusion of the story and seeing how it all wraps up. This issue might be the strongest and my favorite in terms of visual art, but again, it's a little bit
Fantastic.
of a setup, right? Like we're not quite at the climax of the story, so in terms of like the story really hitting, a bit of a down issue for that, but I'm sure just to set up just a big high, a big crescendo for the final issue. So that's why I didn't make my top five, although I did consider it just based on the art. But any thoughts on that?
I actually want to move this into my top five and move another one out as I'm talking to you. But I won't talk much on it other than to say that the art is absolutely fantastic. The way that Jamal Campbell draws the page is absolutely incredible. I love how he emphasizes he clearly knows that Zatanna's history, in particular her dysfunctional sort of her Zatara was a very harsh father in her. He was a difficult father in that he pushed her really hard to learn magic, and she was never quite good enough. And she always had Zatanna, part of Zatanna's origins as a superhero magician is that she always had sort of an insecurity complex in a way, but she sort of rose in the ranks and she found her strength and as part of her formative origin, and that's shown here. Also, we get to see some of her old costumes, and in fact, one of the old costumes we see is the one where George Perez drew a classic cover. That's also one of the variant covers that's represented in here, but drawn by Jamal Campbell. So that's a nice callback. And just a really good overall history of everything that she's experienced. And ultimately, she finally manages to get that sword that had impaled her at the beginning of this series. And there's a wonderful moment where she literally talks to the reader. She says thanks for reading, because she's in this other ethereal sort of like zone, and in order to escape, she manages to escape, but there's a wonderful page where Jamal Campbell, it's literally a comic book page that you see, and it's a double page spread, and it's just awesome. And she's got to burn through basically our reality, and she says, thanks for reading, bye, and she leaves us. And so there's a wonderful breaking of the fourth wall moment, and that doesn't always work, but it's so perfectly in keeping with the artistic sensibilities of what Jamal Campbell has done at the beginning of this series, where he's drawn movie posters, different realms, space, different settings, time travel, everything. And it's just really it's sort of like the cherry on top, and this story's not even done yet. Just so well done. And that's why I'm looking at it, and I'm taking one out, and I want to put this in my top five. It's really well done, and also the ending's really good. She even manages to talk to her mother. And how often do we hear? We always hear about Zatanna's mother or father, never her mother. Well, she talks to her mother in this issue. Very, very heartfelt. Very, it's very touching, and it just works really well. And from the beginning, it just everything flows really good. And I really like the ending. There's some the Allura, the sorceress of the shadow, sort of reveals herself and ends up getting her revenge on I forget the villain's name, but in any event, uh, very well done. And this is, oh man, this is one where if it comes out in hardcover, I already know I'm likely gonna buy the hardcover of this. It gets a good recommend for me.
Yeah, and every one of the covers is hot fire. Like you mentioned, the George Perez legacy cover. Um, there's a Sebastian Fumara cover where she's like taking her face off. That's really awesome. Alexandra Lozano has one where she's coming up out of a hat, like a rabbit, which is fantastic. The main cover from Jamal Campbell is awesome. So yeah, you can't go wrong no matter which cover you grab of this week. So all right, up next, another book that's in neither of our top five, but it's Batman and Robin Year One, co-plot by Mark Waid and Chris Somney, art by Somney, letters by Clayton Cowles with Chris Somney. Again, this continues to be a really fun title. Great interactions between a young um, Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne, and there's even a moment where Bruce, as Batman, is asking Commissioner Gordon, maybe in a rare moment of vulnerability, is asking Gordon, about raising a child. So I thought that was good. But again, just based on the strength of the week, this didn't quite make my top five, although it was a really strong issue. Anything to add?
Yeah, I really like just fantastic character moments, and just really revealing in terms of how Bruce Wayne's interaction with the young Dick Grayson, and you can really compare this. I mean, DC's done such a good job in various series here dealing with the Robins. We've had one with Jason Todd. We have focus on uh, 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 Damian Wayne, and now here with Dick Grayson in the early years. Very well done. And I really love the fact how there's, Grimaldi here. He's trying to wipe out. He believes he has Jim Gordon has a list of, because at one point Jim Gordon was trying to figure out who Batman is. And one of his theories is that Batman is a rich elite billionaire. And of course, that list is unfortunately in the hands of Grimaldi, and Grimaldi's going through the list and attacking all these billionaires. And Bruce Wayne is one of the ones that gets attacked. And of course he's got to protect them as well. And there's a great series of events where Clayface actually infiltrates Wayne Manor and confronts Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson pretends he wants to throw them off the scent, and just some really great dialogue. And it displays that even at a young age, Dick Grayson has good instincts, good crime fighter instincts, and just very it's very well done. It didn't make my top five, but it doesn't mean it wasn't very good.
Yeah, and there's a fantastic Michael Cho cover as well. So, all right, up next, another book that doesn't make either our top five. It's Catwoman: The Mills of Gods, Part One, issue number 77. Torrin Grumbeck on script, Daniello Bayrith on art, Patricio Del Pesce on colors, Steve Wands on letters. I sound like a broken record when it comes to this book. I'm still really enjoying it. This was one of the stronger issues for me. Um, I like this one even more than the past couple, because you feel like the tension is ramping up and we're about to start to get answers. There's betrayals. There's Catwoman showing her skills and her ability to kind of outthink her opponents and what have you. So this entire Torn Grumbeck arc or era is gonna read really well as a collected edition.
Agreed.
But again, just based on the fact that these are all new characters, they're characters that aren't in costumes or what have you. Wouldn't expect them to be, because they're members of a crime family. It's hard to keep the characters straight and remember who's who. And so again, like, I think reading it in a collected edition all at once is going to be a better experience. But I'm continuing to enjoy it, and I really almost made time. Like, if I would have had a little bit more time in my day, I would have gone back, and because after reading this, or even before I finished reading this issue, I was like, I keep saying that this is going to read great as a trade. And part of me just wants to go back and read all the issues just all right in a row up through this one. But again, I just didn't quite have time. But I think it's really going to pay off, because again, you won't have the confusion on which characters are which, and being able to keep everybody straight, which will make for a better story. So, anything to add?
Yeah, I think I think the art has really detracts from this story. I think it's just not sexy enough for Catwoman. In my opinion, that's just my. I don't art's subjective. It's stylist, but the style just doesn't resonate well with me. I also think that with such a large cast, and I think the story. I think clearly the story. There's a lot to the story, and I read this issue, and I read the previous issues. I remember them, and I'm still a little bit lost. I can't keep track of all the characters, and in particular, in my view, a criticism reason why it doesn't resonate well with me is there isn't a single character that stands out. There should be at least one. Now, maybe there's one for you or for other people that read it. That's fine, but there isn't one. I'm not even sure who's betraying who. I'm not really. There's no one that stands out. I'm not even sure who the bad guy is, and although one can guess, but the people even in this issue, the villains, the bad guys in this issue, I don't recognize them from previous issues. So that's where it just doesn't work for me. It's like, to me, like, it's like watching the movie Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 had enough character moments, and I know it's unfair to compare it to a movie, but Ocean's 11 has 11 cast members, and yet all of them had their moments, and they would have memorable moments. Here, I never felt that as a series where I can really pick a character and focus on. And so this is something where it will absolutely read better as a series. I 100% agree with you. I just wish it was. I just wish that it was sexier as well, art, because it's lacking in the sexy department, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% hear what you're saying, and I do wish it had like a consistent artist, because then I think it would make it a little easier to identify the characters. however, when I think about like if this was drawn by somebody like Guillaume Marsh or whatever, where maybe that was a little more sultry and what have you. I think I don't think that works either, because this is at the end of the day, this is a crime story. This is crime noir, um, and typically I think of
Femme
like the old.
fatales, come on.
Well, that's what I was
You
going to
like
say.
sex
Like
scenes.
you think about that crime noir stuff, and yeah, when the femme fatale shows up at in the detective's office or whatever, and the music plays, and it's all sultry and everything, and that stands out for the moment that it is. But I mean, the whole movie's not like that. So I don't think you could have this whole comic drawn like that as well. I mean, because there are a lot of female characters here, but I don't know. I don't know that it would work. Like I I don't know who if you had somebody that another artist in mind to draw this. Who I mean, would you want Adam Hughes drawing the interiors of
Oh,
this or whatever? Because
I actually never really reflected on it. I'm just saying that I'm just saying it doesn't resonate with me artistically.
yeah,
It just
no,
doesn't work.
yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it hasn't always. I thought this art in this particular issue was a little bit better than the previous ones. Um, but yeah, like if you're talking about who's gonna draw some sexy art like Jim Ballant, right? Like classic Catwoman artist or Adam Hughes. I don't think that their styles work either. It would be sexy, but I don't think it would land in terms of the grit because that's what you're trying to balance, right? Like you want Catwoman and the some of the other female characters to be attractive, but then can they handle the gritty part of crime noir? I question that or whatever. Don't get me wrong though. The art overall for this run has not been up to snuff. I agree with you. So anyway, let's move on. Up next we have Detective Comics number 1098. Tom Taylor, the writer, Lee Garbett handles the art, Lee Lowridge on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. Um, this comes into to both our top five. For
I took
me,
this one out
okay.
for me.
All right. I'll make that change. Yeah. So you took it out, and that's where you put in
Yeah,
Zatanna.
that's
Okay,
where I put
gotcha.
in the Zatanna. Yeah,
So okay. I mean, fair enough. Still comes in
it's still good.
my still comes in my top three. Just a really solid story. Um, again, Tom Taylor building on what he established in his first arc. Um, Although I do admit this is a bit of a setup issue as well. Batman, we know he was trying to rescue Harvey Bullock. Turns out he breaks into this um, van in Polkelstan, this sort of armored transport, and finds the Penguin inside instead of Harvey Bullock. He talks to the Penguin. We figure out why Penguin is there. Clearly, the Penguin has taken offense to Elixir and his goons, if you will, in Gotham, and he takes it personally. He wants to get revenge on Elixir. Got to temper that with Batman saying, "Hey, you can't kill anybody." We see Harvey Bullock being tortured because apparently there was a second transport that transported Bullock ahead of time, and so they're able, with the help of Oracle, to track down where they are, and they go and attack and what have you. There's great character moments throughout between Batman and Penguin. Um, again, Batman not wanting Penguin to kill, but wanted to keep him safe and keep his eye on him and what have you. Um, and then we get a climax at the end with the forces of Elixir having Bullock and Batman and Penguin all pinned down. So we'll see how that all plays out in the beginning. But I thought, or next issue is when we should see it all play out. So I thought it was done very, very well. I thought the art by Lee Garbett was really strong. Um, Great use of contrasting color between the blacks and the whites, especially early on, Batman operating in the dark and what have you. Great action sequences, very tightly plotted. Um, I will say that in comparing this to previous issues of Tom Taylor's Detective Run, we maybe get less advancement of the overall plot in this issue than we've gotten in a lot of the Detective Comics books. But I'm willing to forgive that. This is certainly as much of a chunk of story as an average comic that we get. So I don't want to take away from this issue because for the majority, and maybe it's hard to say because I can't remember every issue how it all plays out. But I would say that overall, each individual issue of Tom Taylor's detective run, it's this issues have felt overstuffed. We so much has happened in each issue. We've gotten so much information, so much backstory tying back into Batman's origin and Thomas Wayne and Joe Chill, where each issue it's like, oh my god, I can't believe Tom Taylor packed that much story into 20 pages. Um, Now maybe there's not as much story packed into these 20 pages, but again, I'm willing to forgive that because I'm not going to compare it to previous issues where he's managed to pack a lot of story in, because this has just as much story as your average comic. His previous issues of Detective Comics notwithstanding, but very very quality issue. Again, the Lee Garbett art, a fantastic job. Um, I don't typically think of Lee as like a traditional superhero artist. I've loved his work on things like Shadecraft and Skyward, but man, he's up there for me as a Batman artist. He handles light and shadow and textures and darker colors so well. He's not somebody that in the past I've thought of as just a fantastic Batman artist, but I'm putting him in that class going forward because I thought he did a fantastic job. So, yeah. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, Harvey Bullock is awesome. He shines in this issue. I mean, Elixir. I mean, this issue is just Elixir trying to protect their seekers, and they're torturing Harvey Bullock because they want to know who he shared all the information with because he found some information on them, and he shared it with Batman. And there's a great scene where they're torturing Harvey Bullock, and the one guy who's torturing him is saying, "I'm going to enjoy watching you suffer." And then, of course, there's gunfire outside, and then and then Harvey Bullock said, "It sounds like you have company." And then the torturer says, "Who is it? Who's there?" And then Harvey Bullock tells him, "You're getting a visit from the man who I shared you the information with. I'm going to enjoy watching you suffer." And I just thought it was funny. Good comic book trophy moments of dialogue. I think it works very well. And it just put a smile on my face. There's some really good moments. And at the end, I don't, not a heck of a lot happens. I'm not sure. We know that Elixir has ties with Ra's al Ghul, and they go back, possibly 100, 200 years. And so that plot thickens, so bringing Ra's al Ghul into the fold a little bit. So that's interesting. And yeah, so not a heck of a lot happens, but, I thought it was a great art by Bruno Redondo. And yeah, it's, pardon me, is that, yeah, he was the artist. No, sorry, Lee Garbett art.
No, Lee Garbett. Yeah,
Lee
Bruno
Garbett,
Redondo
yeah.
has. Yeah, Bruno
He has
Redondo
the
has
variant cover.
a variant cover. Yeah, yeah.
But
So
yeah, no, it was good. It's just outside my top five now, but still good.
yeah, fair enough. All right, next book doesn't make either of our top five. This might be a first for the Tom Taylor era of Wonder Woman for me, but it's Wonder Woman number 22, written by Taylor, Caitlin Yarsky on art, Alex Corrimus on colors, Clayton Cowell on letters. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. There's a new character, Mouse Man, that's introduced. At least it's new to me. I don't think he's ever shown up before. Um, and we are getting a little bit of context into the early days of the relationship between Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman, which I appreciated. But I don't know. I don't really care for the Mouse Man as a character. Didn't have Daniel Semper art, which I love. Not that Caitlin Yarsky does a bad job at all. She does a fantastic job, especially drawing giant mice. But yeah, this just didn't hit for me. I ranked it at number 12. This came in last. So
Yeah, I ranked it at number 11 for me. I put Catwoman 77 at number 12 for me. But there's some fun here. And I know from reading ahead, I'm not giving spoilers. I can just tell you from the solicitations that Mouse Man he's kind of a joke of a character, and the mice attack the White House, and Wonder Woman happens to protect the White House being attacked by Mouse Man is attacking the White House sometime in the past, and it happens to be the day after Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor first do the deed. They're after their first night of intimacy, where they're still getting to know each other, but they clearly must have had a night of passion, and they're a little bit, they're not sure how to behave, since they've spent the night together, and just then these mice are being sort of controlled by Mouse Man or attacking the White House. And there's this big thing about Wonder Woman not wanting to hurt the mice, and it's a little bit silly. Steve Trevor kind of plays it as sort of like the shy guy trying to talk to the woman that he just slept with. And I don't know. He's a military man. He's got to be more masculine than that. He just does. And Wonder Woman she's like arguably the very, very, you know, she's like all shy and everything. And she's supposed to be the epitome of a little bit of a little bit of a feminine mystique. I just thought that just the dialogue and the characterization. I mean, it was okay, but it was done so tropey and traditional. Tom King, I don't think put enough thought into how Wonder Woman would actually behave and act, and frankly, Steve Trevor too. Uh, I just thought it would have. He could have been. I thought it was a little bit too. I thought it was silly. Both the interaction between Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, and with the mice, it just never really worked for me. But it wasn't a bad issue. I didn't find it offensive or anything. It wasn't bad. I mean, it had some funny moments. I think it was just kind of like odd, and it was, you know. But I know that what he's doing, because at some point Mouse Man's going to return. We got teases of that in previous issues, that the mouse symbol is going to, it's someplace, sometime in the future, this Mouse Man is going to be like a big villain. And we know Tom King's really good at that, because after all, we got the Sovereign. He was such a cool villain. So now we got Mouse Man to look forward to. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it almost felt like a Bronze Age issue, right?
Yeah.
Like an old school,
Yeah.
yeah, silly
Just silly.
issue. Yeah. So anyway, up next we have Absolute Flash number 4. This comes in my top 5. I think it's in your top 5 as well. It's written by Jeff Lemire. We have A.L. Kaplan on art, Adriana Lucas on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. So give us your thoughts.
Yeah, sorry, here, let me see. Oops. Yeah, so, yeah, I think this is it's one of the more informative issues. It's Absolute Flash number 4, and it's to the extent we already got some hints in previous issues that Wally West, that his flash powers seem to be such that he experiences things out of sync, out of time, and so he seems to be living. He seems to be able to possibly interact or to see and experience things that have happened in the past, and maybe still interact in the past and the present and maybe the future. And so, and it's interesting that way, because he, it starts off with him seeing his father in front of his mother's grave, and him wanting to go back, and then he even sees a vision of Barry Allen, asking him for help. Wally, please help me. So we got hints here that Wally West he seems to be anxious, hyper, stressed, and when he does, he seems to go in and out of different parts of time, and it hints that Barry Allen is still alive, and at the same time, this monkey, this Grodd, this green monkey seems to be able to calm him, and so, it might be something that, whatever the connection is between Grodd and Wally, whether maybe it's just psychological tenderness or just, whatever it might be, maybe they have similar origins, maybe the origins are grounded in the same type of scientific phenomena that we've yet to be told what it is. But it's interesting that Grodd and Wally seem to have this calming effect on each other, or at least Grodd does on Wally, and that's very much needed. We find out that the Rogues are in fact working with Dr. West. So Wally's dad is in charge of the whole, or is one of the guys in charge of things, and wants to know where son Wally is. He wants to know what happened. What the hell was Barry Allen working on? It's really odd. There's because we meet this other character, Eleanor Thawne. So instead of Theobald Thawne, we have Eleanor Thawne. And she's apparently the organization of this military base has a contract with the Lazarus Corporation, which is, we know in the pages of Superman, we know Lazarus, so there's probably a link to Ra's al Ghul in the Absolute universe, the Absolute Lazarus Corporation. So that's the connection to the Flash. And so, what exactly is the nature of what the hell was Barry Allen working on? Why didn't Dr. West, Wally's dad, know about it? This Eleanor Thawne seems to know about it. Whatever happened, whatever he was working on, the resulting explosion that resulted in Wally West leaving the facility. Also, there were other experiments. It wasn't just Wally that they have to worry about. There is a number. There's Operation Heatwave, and there's Operation. There's a project. Project XXXXX, Project Wizard, Project Heatwave, whoever those whoever those experiments were on, they've escaped, and so those we get hints of the absolute other rogues, and so a lot of seeds are planted here. This is Eleanor Shawn, to what extent is she a villain? Is she, is Dr. West, is he a bad guy, a good guy? We're not really sure. I like what Jeff Lemire is doing here, is sort of planting all these seeds. We get Linda. Wally West, and Linda is Wally West's wife in the mainstream universe, and then of course Linda. I forget her last name, her maiden name, in mainstream universe. But then even he meets Linda because Wally and Grodd go looking for food, and they wander into this town, and they run into Ralph Digby. He's not the elongated man here, but he's someone who runs sort of a local shelter, a food shelter, and Linda is in this food shelter, and so Wally meets young Linda, and we got good dialogue, good character moments. We got a lot happening in this issue. Substance filled. I enjoyed the art. I enjoyed the movement, the action. A lot was established. It really pulled me into the Flash again, and because I was sort of like moving away from it, but this pulled me back in, and I thought it was very well done, and I'm just more curious about the next issue. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think Linda Park, I think, is her maiden name.
Thank you, Linda Park.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the momentum keeps building. I think Jeff Lemire is doing a fantastic job. I love the rapport that's been established between Grodd and Wally West. Obviously, this is not Gorilla Grodd. To call this monkey a gorilla would be very tongue in cheek. But yeah, interesting the parallels and the similar trauma that they've endured, and they sort of ground each other. So that's really interesting. Yeah, and to your point about the other experiments and what has been going on at this army base and what have you, and we get a look at the absolute version of Heatwave, which is very, very different from Mick Rory. So how that's all going to play out is going to be interesting. But for me, the biggest strength of Absolute Flash so far has been the characterization of Wally West. Say what you want about the main universe, Wally West. He's had his issues over the years. But like as you identify him now, his biggest current struggle is kind of a work-life balance, right? Like we can all relate, balancing his family life with his responsibilities as the Flash. But if you were to take away his family now, like who is Wally West, it'd be so different, right? Like it has been established for so long that he's in love with Linda Park and they're married and they have kids and whatever. And even before they were married and had kids, it was that relationship that sort of defined him. Not completely unlike Barry Allen and Iris West at one point, but I think back to when the 1987 Flash series started, which is probably the Flash run where kind of the current version of Wally had its origins, right? Like this was after Barry Allen's death. This was the series that for a lot of people established Wally West as their Flash, quote unquote. It's where we have the Jeff Johns run, the Mark Waid run, and that sort of thing. But if you go back and read those early issues where Wally didn't have Linda Park, didn't have a family or whatever, it's like who is he as a character, and that's where he was kind of struggling, not only with self-identity but with his powers. And we find out that he's holding himself back. He can only run like about 700 miles an hour. It was such a different kind of version of Wally. And now again, here we are getting a different version who in 4 short issues has already started to evolve and gain some agency, and gain some control over the sort of mental health challenges he has with anxiety and a little bit of OCD and what have you. So again, I think it's just fantastic character work from Jeff Lemire. Now, I really enjoy the regular series artist Nick Robles. I think his art is fantastic, but I think A.L. Kaplan fills in admirably here, especially when we get a chance to see Heatwave for the first time, and he's just like, what is that? He almost looks like, Clayface in a way, if Clayface was melting on a hot summer day. So we'll see how this Heatwave is similar to the classic Rogue's character Heatwave, and how he might differ. So let's go ahead and move on. Up next, we have Superman Unlimited #2 from writer Dan Slott, art by Rafael Albuquerque, colors by Marcelo Maiello, letters by Dave Sharp. This makes the top 5 for me, makes my top 3 actually, and it's in your top 5 as well. So what'd you think of it?
Yeah, it did make my top 3. And sorry, I just got to make sure I bring it up on the screen. Uh, uh, Dan Slott, what can I say? I mean, I'm enjoying this story. This is a sort of a new status quo for Superman, because now that kryptonite is so prevalent in the DC universe, and there's literally an entire nation that's that's arisen with its own sort of new government structure, a new monarch, or this his name is what is President Castillo. Uh, he's the president of the, I guess. Is it El Cadero is this country now that is basically empowered by kryptonite, and it's got all it's because this kryptonite media landed in El Cadero. It's now become the richest, most popular metal there is on the planet. It's very rare and it's very expensive. And what has happened, of course, is that Superman, all the villains have access. Kryptonite is readily available, and Superman, of course, he has this defense where he can turn on this golden. He it's sort of like he can access his golden armor, or I guess his sunlight, and he can surround himself with powerful sunlight that's stores up in his cells. And he can protect, and he has his powers while he does so, but he only has it for 90 seconds, and it depletes him of energy, after which he will lose his powers for a significant period of time and still be vulnerable and potentially die from green kryptonite. So Superman's got to very strategically use this new power that he has. If he's ever battling against individuals that have kryptonite weapons, which is exactly what happens in this issue. And it's very well done. Very well done. There's a lot of setup. But the highlight of the issue is the creeper. Jack Ryder, and Jack Ryder is Jack Ryder himself is kind of a creep. He's kind of a low life podcaster who likes to play fast and loose with the truth in order for ratings. And there's a great scene where he's interviewing a farm lady who's got a green-eyed, two-headed goat, and he's claiming that it was a result of the kryptonite poisoning, and that kryptonite is infecting the livestock. And of course, Clark Kent goes on there, fact checks him, and obviously identifies the goat couldn't possibly have been impact. The goat was too old to have been impacted by the kryptonite media and what have you. And uh, I like that it establishes, we get to know more people of the Daily Planet, of this world that Dan Slott has sort of like reshaped, and it just works. And there's really good character moments. I like this. It's great seeing Maxime, or not Maxima, Knockout again. Knockout is she's just I've always liked Knockout. She's a character that sometimes she's been a hero, sometimes she's not. Knockout is her girlfriend is Scandal Savage, but I don't know if they're still an item anymore. But back in the day, at least in the days of Secret Six, Knockout would get together with Scandal Savage, and they would do their thing together. And in any event, I thought there was a lot of great character moments, a lot of fun. The art, I want to give a shout out to the art. Albuquerque's art is really good. Like I said, I'm I'm really interested to see where this is going to go. It can go in so many different directions. I'm not entirely sure where this is going, other than the fact that it becomes clear at the end because of another social influencer. At the end, where Superman depletes all his energy, he gets hit with just basically a spitball, and it hits him, and that's caught on social media. And so probably a lot of people will be able to figure out that Superman is still vulnerable, and they'll know that if they want to harm him, all they have to do is wait till he depletes his sort of like his sunlight power, or whatever they're going to call it. And he's still extremely vulnerable. And at the end, there's a hint that the villain that's going to be probably empowering some of his toys with kryptonite, will of course be Toyman. And so it's good stuff. Like I said, I just like the new status quo. It feels different, and I like it's a different status quo. Dan Slott's having fun with it, and I love the fact that I really don't know what the hell to expect, and that's what I enjoy about it. What about yourself?
Yeah, feels like a very action-packed issue for sure. Talk about trying to squeeze a lot of story into only 20 pages. It felt like almost 2 issues worth of story, so a lot to unpack. Um, Interesting new power. He's got this golden shield where he's completely invulnerable even to kryptonite. Super interesting, but then of course with the drawback. So it reminds me of the solar flare power. I think that was the last time that Superman got a new power. That was at the Jeff Johns run, leading into the Greg Pak run, where
Mm.
similarly um, to this Golden Superman, um, all the stored solar energy and all of Superman's cells was expended. So in this instance with the Golden Superman, he's completely invulnerable even to kryptonite for 90 seconds, but then all his solar energy has been depleted and he's powerless for a while because it's going to take some time for the solar energy to build back up in his cells. So in the Jeff Johns run, it was a solar, what they called a solar flare, where Superman could unleash all of the stored solar energy in his cells in kind of one blast, and it would kind of it was sort of destructive in a way because it would just be like this big explosion. Um, but again, in that instance, all the solar energy in his cells was depleted for a period of time, and he was vulnerable. So it raises several questions. Obviously, you mentioned the creeper basically announcing this to the world by shooting him with the spitwad, and just as somebody's filming him, and right away she speculates, oh, he's vulnerable. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're putting Superman's life in danger. Like, really not the brightest idea. But you do wonder, like, are there things that Superman could do to mitigate this, right? Like we saw in one of the like maybe the controversial moment in the James Gunn Superman movie trailer, where he's having his cells recharged by solar energy, and he's screaming because having all that energy um, and recharging his cells all at once is painful. So you wonder, could they set up something like that where he could charge replenish the energy quicker than.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't necessarily said how long with that solar flare power. It was like 24 hours. Um,
Yeah.
what if he were to, I guess you can't just throw him up in space because he couldn't breathe if he didn't have the energy to hold his breath. But yeah, you wonder if there's something that might be done. But obviously, this is going to introduce a new dynamic and something else that Superman's going to have to deal with. So that's fantastic. On top of that, we have the what's going on with El Caldero, this new country with President Castillo, like you mentioned, and he's the one that contacts the Toyman at the end. So clearly, this is a country that's not used to their wealth, and Castillo maybe not on the up and up. Maybe delusions of grandeur, or too much power too fast, corrupting him, or what have you, or maybe the kryptonite itself is affecting him. Who knows? But almost setting Dan Slott setting it up for him to be the next big villain. We know there's a kryptonite king coming at some point. Will that end up being President Castillo? It seems so. Um, just based on what the other citizens call him when he calls out his security team when there's people that are trying to steal kryptonite from El Cal- uh, El Caldero, Emerald City, or what have you. He has this security force called the Krypto Knights, and um, they call him the king. For king and country, they say, and Lois even says they're referring to you as king rather than president. So it's a nickname. Some people have taken to calling me the Kryptonite King. So we know there's a Kryptonite King villain coming. So maybe eventually El, uh, Castillo here is going to don kryptonite armor. Is going to fight Superman. It's going to be at odds with Superman at some point. We'll see, and that may all kick off by the machinations with the Toyman, which we know there's a new version of Toyman coming. Dan Slott talked about it when I interviewed him. It's in that big Superman article over on LRM Online, where he talks about this is a nephew of the Toyman that we've come to know, and that Toyman, the Toyman that we know, is pulling the strings in the background for this new Toyman. So, um, yeah, there's a lot going on in this issue. Mentioned at the beginning of the kind of the new branches of the Daily Planet. That was basically explained the last issue by the new owner of the Daily Planet, how there's going to be all these branches all across the world. So we get a glimpse of that as well. So yeah, like I said, huge amount of story in this issue. Maybe my only nitpick on it, and this is just a personal thing, I don't know if the Raphael Albuquerque art works for me as well as maybe another style. I do appreciate at times, especially when he's drawing architecture and buildings, it looks kind of Art Deco. Kind of reminds me of Superman the Animated Series or Batman the Animated Series, kind of that classic feel. But at other times, it feels a little rough for me. And he's definitely not kind of a traditional superhero artist. Yeah, I wonder if his stylistically if he's the best fit, but it's still he's still a fantastic storyteller, um, and also the color work, it is sort of a muted palette. It's not bright colors that jump off the page, which is what I prefer for Superman. But I think the colors here from my Marcelo Maiello, they suit the line work of Albuquerque. So that's another consideration. Like if it were somebody that had a different aesthetic style, then you maybe would use brighter colors that I think might work better. But again, it's a minor nitpick. Overall, this has been a lot of fun. Been impressed with what Dan Slott's been doing with Superman so far. And as far as variant covers, probably my favorite. There's a Tony Daniel variant cover that I think is really strong, and then there's a Steve Besh um, cover that looks fantastic, where it almost looks like Superman is floating in a pool of liquid kryptonite, which is really interesting. It's like this bright green cover, so I may have to pick that one up myself tomorrow. So anyway, that does it for the single issues that we're going to cover this week. There are a few others single issues that are out. Absolute Batman gets a second printing. Absolute Batman 6 gets a second printing. Absolute Batman 7 gets a second printing. There's also a facsimile edition of Adventure Comics number 210. And I'll call that out specifically because there are bagged versions of that comic. That comic comes bagged, and you open it up, and you have a chance, if it has this little gold stamp bone on it, that you win 2 tickets and I think airfare and hotel to go see the world premiere of James Gunn's Superman film. So probably going to buy a couple copies of that myself. I wasn't necessarily, I don't usually buy the facsimile editions, but I will be buying at least 2 copies of that just to get a chance. That would be amazing to go to the world premiere of that film. Anyway, there's also a facsimile edition of the latest issue of Batman Hush 619. All of those have been being reprinted one by one, so they're up to issue 619. So that does it for the other single issues that are out this week. Let's talk about collected editions. We have a collected edition of the Authority. This is from the Wildstorm days, when it's written by Mark Miller, art by Frank Quitely. So this collects, does it collect the whole thing? It doesn't say. It's 504 pages, so I think it collects the whole run. And it's $35. So if you're so inclined, big fan of the Authority, or if you've never read it and just heard about it and want to check it out, you can pick up that collected edition. We also have Batwoman Elegy being collected in the DC Compact Comics edition. This collects the current Batwoman's first appearances in Detective Comics, classic stuff from Greg Rucka, art by J.H. Williams. So you got 240 pages for $10, specifically collecting Detective Comics issues 854 through 860. Then we have Birds of Prey, Volume 3, Bird Undercover. This is the current run from Kelly Thompson, collecting issues 14 through 19. DC's Finest gets a Metamorpho version, collecting some of the classic Metamorpho issues from the past. Brave and the Bold 57 through 58, 66, 68, 101, Metamorpho 1 through 17, and the Justice League of America number 42. So that's all Silver Age stuff, mostly written by Bob Haney, art by Ramona Fraden, obviously as a co-creator of Metamorpho. And then Milestone is getting a compendium number 4 trade paperback, which is collecting a bunch of the original Milestone issues from the 90s It's 1,304 pages for $60. Now that is a huge amount of pages for a very low price. Typically, when we get these compendiums and they're over 1,000 pages, as this one is, I mean, this is over 1,300 pages. They're usually like $125. This one is only 60, so take advantage if you're so inclined. And then finally, we have a Superman Adventures compendium, which collects the Superman Adventures comic, which was based on the Superman Adventures TV show. So, written some of the issues by Scott McCloud, some are by Mark Miller. That art style is very much the style of the Superman animated series. So, we've got 928 pages for $60. Again, if that's something that you want to check out. So, all right, time to give our rankings. I'll go first since I usually make Rocky go first. Only fair. So starting at number 12 for me was Wonder Woman 22. 11 was Batman Superman World's Finest, number 40. Coming in at number 10, Catwoman 77. Number 9 was Batman and Robin Year 1, issue number 8. Number 8 for me is Zatanna, number 5. At number 7, Nightwing, number 127. And then just missing out on the top 5, New Gods, number 7. And then for my top 5, at 5, I have Absolute Flash, number 4. Teen Titans, number 24, comes in my number 4 slot. And then for my top 3, I have Detective Comics, number 1098, at number 3. Superman Unlimited, number 2. And then my number 1 book, my book of the week, and again, maybe slightly influenced by the passing of my favorite pup, is Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, number 1. So, and it was a relatively easy choice for me for my number 1 this week. Just those character moments for Krypto, they were so fun, and I look forward to seeing him on the big screen and reading more of that series. So, go ahead and give us your rankings, Rocky.
Well, my rankings are coming at number 12 are Catwoman 77. At number 11, Wonder Woman 22. At number 10, Krypto, Last Dog of Krypton. 9, Superman Batman World's Finest. 8, Batman and Robin Year 1. 7 was Nightwing 127. 6 was Detective Comics 1098. 5 was Titans 24. 4 was Absolute Flash. 3 was Zatanna, issue 5. And number 2 was Superman Unlimited. And coming in at number 1, I put New Gods, number 7. I just thought, I thought it was, I thought it really worked well. I thought everything sort of came together and there were some really great character moments that really resonated with me. I thought it was pretty damn good. So, it was a great week. It was a good week.
Yeah, it was a really strong week. So don't forget to leave some comments below. Let us know what you thought of the books this week. If you want to throw your rankings down there, that would be cool as well. Don't forget, if you're listening audio only, all of the Comic Source content is available on our podcast feed. Whatever platform or app you get your podcast from, you'll find the Comic Source with thousands of previous episodes for you to peruse. But if you are listening audio only, be sure to head over to YouTube, where we put this out on Rocky's channel every week, so you can see the fantastic covers and gorgeous artwork as we're talking about it. So Comic Space Boom ! On YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, and as I mentioned, leave some comments. Let us know what your thoughts of the books are. We love to get conversations going in the comment section, and obviously ring that notification bell when you get the chance. Also, the Comic Source has a YouTube channel as well, where everything but the DC Spotlight comes out. All the interviews I do, book reviews, Spawn Daily, all that stuff. So just do a search for the Comic Source on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell as well. So that's going to do it. As San Diego Comic-Con gets closer, we'll have more news, and hopefully some listeners are going to be out there. Members of our audience are going to be out there at San Diego as well. So rare opportunity. Rocky and I don't get to do conventions together very, very often, being that we live thousand miles apart. So yeah, if you want your chance to meet us in person and take a photo or whatever, that'd be fantastic. So be sure you're following us on social media and let us know if you're going to be there. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We appreciate you joining as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.